Thank you, Chair DeLauro. At this time, the chair recognizes Representative Ben Cline for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the Attorney General for joining us today. General Garland, over the last 2 years, the CDC has exercised enormous power, including power to shut down the cruise ship industry, stop landlords from evicting tenants who have not paid their rent, require that persons using public transportation wear masks. Since the Justice Department has decided to appeal the case in support of the administration's authority to implement these mask mandates, I'd like to understand your basis for the belief that the CDC was acting within the scope of its authority. Given that the authority of the Public Health Services Act, which is allegedly the basis for the government mask mandates, has generally been limited to quarantining infected individuals and prohibiting the import or sale of animals known to transmit diseases, is it the administration's interpretation that mandatory masking is a form of sanitation, and how so?
So, as you correctly note, Congressman, this is a matter in litigation. The precise wording that you mentioned, sanitation, is one of the issues in that litigation. I just want to be clear what the Justice Department's role here is. It's the CDC that makes the public policy and public health determinations, and our only role is to determine whether it has statutory authority. We have taken that position now for quite some time, that it has statutory authority for the masking with respect to interstate transportation. The analysis is laid out in the briefs that we filed in numerous courts on this subject.
Well, not only did the judge rule that the CDC went beyond its authority, they also found that they violated the APA in the process of implementing this mask mandate. As you know, back in February of 2021, when they published the mask mandate without allowing public participation through notice and comment procedures as the basis for dispensing with the ordinary APA requirements, the CDC said that it would be impracticable and contrary to the public's health to delay the mandate to seek public comment. So I think that we have several problems with the mandate that was put in place. Do you know, General Garland, excluding the last 2 years, when this authority that they're claiming was last enforced and what the purpose of it was?
So I don't know the history. I imagine it was discussed in the litigation. Of course, this is the first major pandemic the country has suffered since the flu epidemic at the beginning of the 20th century. But I could get back to you on what the history has been with some of my staff, if you'd like.
Well, it's been rare. In fact, from the decision, I'm just looking at page 29, the provision has rarely been invoked and never before to justify a mandate that travelers on every form of commercialized travel wear masks. And perhaps the most notable use of the statute so far, excluding the last 2 years, of course, was a decision to ban small turtles due to a risk of salmonella back in 1975. So I think what we're seeing here is a broad misinterpretation of the statute and a misapplication, not to mention the failure to follow the APA in the process. So I would hope that the Justice Department would reconsider that decision. Let me move on to another subject. American citizens and legal immigrants are, in civil cases, not entitled to free legal representation, correct?
Yes, as a general matter, that's right, although many states have different rules in that respect, but that is correct.
But federal, from a federal perspective, not in family court, not in tax court, not in bankruptcy proceedings, correct?
That's correct.
And as you would probably agree, legal representation can be expensive. An American can lose their children or their life savings or become homeless without the government paying for their attorneys. But it's my understanding in your budget request, you're requesting $600 million a year to pay for attorneys for unauthorized aliens. Is that correct?
So the Legal Services Corporation, with funding for Congress, does also provide money for the states for all the kinds of things that you're talking about: small claims court, tax court, bankruptcy court, landlord-tenant court. We do have a tradition of trying to provide money for legal services for the poor.
Back to this line of questioning in the next round. At this
Oh,
time,
sorry, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Representative Grace Meng for 5 minutes of question.